Haiti, the state funeral of President Jovenel Moise is held at his private residence. During a press conference, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez rejected the new coercive measures imposed by the United States and the disinformation campaigns issued by some international media. The 2020 Olympic Games kick off in Tokyo after the opening ceremony. Hello, welcome to TeleSUR English. I am Denise Herrera and this is from the South. In Haiti, the state funeral of President Jovenel Moise is held at his private residence in Cape Haitiano. During this Friday morning, honors are paid to the assassinated head of state in the gardens of the private residence of the Moise family. The participation of the First Lady Martine Moise, government officials and representatives of the company is expected. The funeral events began the Thursday with the presence of supporters of Moise who offered condolences of the family and the deceased and participated in a peaceful mobilization that ended as a protest of his security. The magazine rejected the protest rejected by the magazine last July 7th. During a press conference, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez rejected the new coercive measures imposed by the United States as the confirmation campaigns issued by some international media.
The President of the United States announced that sanctions against those responsible for what he calls repressions against the Cuban people will continue, and that I categorically and absolutely reject. Here, there has been no act of repressions against the Cuban people, in the same way that there has not been a social explosion, as I have already denounced, despite the persistent mendacity of some well-established media, international press established in particular in the United States and Spain, and a profusion of slander, manipulation, entanglement, lies, cheap tricks on digital networks.
Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez said that the main obstacle of the connectivity of the Cuban people in the telecommunication services is the illegal blockade imposed by the Washington government supported by media corporations.
I declare that the main obstacle to the connectivity of Cuban citizens with the Internet, with digital networks, and with other telecommunications services is the United States blockade of Cuba, is the extreme manipulation of digital networks, the technological firms and the giants, the big imports that make and disprove, and that unfortunately the United States government largely controls.
President Díaz-Canel also visited the power plant maintenance company Havana's municipality of Marianao to recognize the workers of the company who restored the power plant service in the face of the recent power failures in the country.
When we are reaffirming our revolutionary convictions, when we are defending the homeland, the revolution, at times when they have, as I said on another occasion, tried to kill us again and here we are alive, it is very important for one to feel supported, for all of us to feel supported, to feel as part of the workers' family that you represent today, and also because you have contributed in one of the fundamental tasks in which we are involved today, one of which has affected us the most during this time when we have shortages, when there is a lack of supplies, due to all the things that you know, the blockade, the strengthening of the measures imposed by the Trump administration.
Venezuelan President Maduro emphasized that the country must reach 100% of its labor capacity and productivity despite the implementation of coercive measures from the United States to weaken the Venezuelan economy.
And Venezuela has to reach 100% of the capacity of work, of the productive capacity, without excuses of any kind. Imperialist attacks there will be today, tomorrow and always, and Venezuela must build its economic prosperity, its happiness and its socialism, counting on the imperialist attack and without using it as an excuse. We denounce in the world as criminal acts, as crimes against humanity against Venezuela. We denounce them and we will denounce them.
The President Maduro reported that the Bolivian government is ready to go to a table of dialogue in Mexico with all factions of Venezuela opposition.
we are ready to go to Mexico. And Dr. Jorge Rodriguez, Dr. Hector Rodriguez, has informed all delegations of the opposition and of the government of Norway that we are ready to go to Mexico. We are ready to sit down on a realistic objective agenda, truly Venezuelan, to bring all the issues that need to be addressed, to reach partial agreements for peace, the sovereignty of Venezuela, so that all critical sanctions of Venezuela are lifted.
Peru's National Jury of Elections said President-elect Pedro Castillo is to receive this Thursday the presidential credentials for the 2021 to 2026 period. The electoral authority will hand over the credentials to Pedro Castillo with 6 days to go before the presidential inauguration. In the context, Castillo met with outgoing President Francisco Sagasti in private for 2 hours to begin the transition of the government. After the meeting, Castillo says the people need to know the situation of the state institutions. Castillo takes over the presidency after defeating Keiko Fujimori in the second round and dismantling, together with the people of campaign promote, by Fujimori's supporters to hide the results of the June 6 elections. Chilean Congress will discuss the Thursday the new water code to promote its rational to equitable use. The bill is currently submitted to the Senate for its general analysis. The regulation aims to guarantee food safety and human subsistence of water by making it a resource for public use. The code will also grant more powers to the General Directorate of Water to control and promote the sustainable of water resources in the country. We'll take a short break now, don't go away. Welcome back. Madagascar said Thursday they had foiled an attempt to assassinate President Andrew Rajoelina and addressed 6 people, 2 of whom, according to diplomatic sources, were French nationals. In a statement, prosecutor Bertine Razzafioribioni said evidence showed these individuals devised a plan to eliminate and neutralize various Madagascan figures, including the head of state. The statement gave no details about the operation. Public Security Minister said the police had information about this affair for months, adding that police officers acted swiftly to make simultaneous arrests in different locations.
According to all the investigations we have made, the arrested persons are involved in the attempted assassination of the head of state of Madagascar. The arrests followed all the norms. The arrests were not made by mercenaries, but by the police. 6 people were arrested, among them 2 Malagasy are binationals. There is also a foreigner and the others are Malagasy.
Russia welcomed the agreement reached by Germany and the United States on operation of the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. Several political sectors consider the agreement between the United States and Russia as a victory for Russia. The agreement between Berlin and Washington on the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline sets out a series of measures to support Ukraine and on European energy security. The pipeline project, rejected by Washington for years, aims to transport up to 55 billion cubic meters of natural gas per year from Russia to Germany via the bottom of the Baltic Sea. Thousands of government supporters gathered at Meskel Square in Addis Ababa on Thursday to celebrate the second filing of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Those joining the rally also made a show of support for the Ethiopian military while denouncing rebels in the country's Tigray region. The dam has caused controversy, with Egypt and Sudan being in the dispute with the building of it. The issue is due to be discussed by the UN Security Council, and first that conflict could be sparked by the project. On Thursday, the Syrian Army and Defense repelled an Israeli aggression with missiles on El Qusar area in Homs countryside. According to military authorities, the aggression took place at 1 a.m. There were no casualties and only material damage were reported. The Syrian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Extradition stated that the Israeli airstrike took place within the framework of the systematic Israeli policy based on state terrorism and continued support for terrorist groups. And in China, at least 51 people were killed and 8 more are missing to the floods in the central province of Henan. The natural disaster affected an area of more than 3 million inhabitants, 375,000 of whom were evacuated. The direct economic impact is more than 180 million US dollars. The Chinese government allocated a fund of 15 million US dollars to be the rescue and recovery efforts. And we stay in the Asian continent, where millions of people have been affected by heavy rains and flood triggered by climate change. In India, heavy rainfall has left 30 people dead and the city of Mumbai paralyzed. In Pakistan, 14 citizens have lost their lives and another 20 are injured due to storms. Meanwhile, Indonesia registered 20 deaths and 30 missing. Chancellor Angela Merkel stresses the need to speed the fight against climate change, as the death toll from the devastating flood in Germany reaching 177.
This means that a lot has happened, and we should not pretend that nothing has been done, but it has been measured. And it's true that not enough has been done to reach the aim of staying well under 2 degrees and as close to 1.5 degrees as possible. That is not just true of Germany, but of many countries across the world, which is why we need to increase the tempo.
The Russian military joined the fight against raging wildfires in the country's Sakaryatia region Thursday. The Russian Air Forces made 18 flights, dropping 36 tons of water on the blazes in the Gorny district. The vast Sakaryatia region of Siberia has had a long spell of extremely hot and dry weather this summer, with temperature reaching 39 degrees Celsius and city records for several days. The fires have surrounded Yakutia cities, towns and villages in thick smoke, forcing authorities to briefly suspend flights at regional capitals' airports. The defense minister deployed transport planes and helicopters to help those the flames. More stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Olympics Games opening ceremony began Friday, stripped upon after the pandemic forced a change to the devastating celebration that opened previous game. A simple stage featuring a model empty Fuji was set up as the focus of a show seen by more than 1,000 people at the National Stadium in Tokyo. Performances will highlight the challenges of the pandemic for athletes and remember those lost to COVID-19. Only around 5,700 athletes will join the parade, down from more than 10,000 in the opening ceremony in Rio de Janeiro in 2016. The COVID-19 pandemic hangs over everything Olympic related, with the opening ceremony happening after a year delay.
Fencing, 1970.
And some people protested outside the Tokyo Stadium minutes before the beginning of the game's opening ceremony. The protest grew up as the opening ceremony was set to commence a couple hundred yards away on a street corner surrounded by police. A core group of protesters chanted and yelled. The French hospital wait for affections to second half of August caused by the fourth wave of COVID-19 infections. The French government's top advisor of COVID-19, Jean-François Delfraissy, warned Friday that a new variant of the disease will probably emerge in the winter months this year. The country is currently battling an unprecedented strike in new cases caused by the more infectious Delta variant, which was first recorded in India. Around 66% of the French population had received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, with 46% having had both. The supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, received a second dose of coercive vaccine on Friday. The Ayatollah Khamenei had the first dose of Iranian vaccine called Iran Berekat injected early on July 25. The supreme leader has previously set down conditions for him being vaccinated. First, that he would not receive the foreign vaccine. Second, that he will only receive an Iranian vaccine. For the same reason, when the first phase of the vaccination of Iranians aged 80 and above started, he did not receive the foreign vaccine and waited for the Iranian one. The Iranian vaccine was approved for emergency mass application by the country's health ministry early this month. A batch of Chinese COVID-19 vaccines arrived in Myanmar on Thursday as the country battled a devastating new surge in cases. Myanmar has been in turmoil since the military ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi, and the last wave of the pandemic has struck with many hospitals empty of the medical staff. The Chinese shipment contained 736,000 Sinopharm doses. The military junta that governs Myanmar has purchased 4 million vaccines from China, said early this month that aid in Beijing will donate a further 2 million Myanmar on last winter. Reported of 6,701 new cases, up from around 100 per day in early June. Vietnam's army works disinfecting the streets of Ho Chi Minh City, the country's main commercial that sees a rise in the number of COVID infections. Soldiers have started spraying disinfectants on the streets of Ho Chi Minh City on Friday, especially areas with complicated developments of the COVID-19 pandemic. There will be 2 groups of 16 special-use military vehicles disinfecting the districts per day in the next 7 days. The city has been under lockdown since July 9, but with the COVID-19 outbreak has not yet been contained. Local authorities have extended the lockdown another 2 weeks with stricter restrictions. We have come to the end of this new brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media. For TeleSUR English, I am Denise Herrera. Thank you for watching.